Hello, I'm glad you've joined us. In the next few minutes, I want to update you on the progress we've been making with our Interstate 80 planning study. But before we get too far, if you missed our first meeting, you might want to stop and watch the first online meeting video located on this site. That video provides information regarding the history, growth, and importance of Interstate 80, traffic forecasts for the future, and the guiding principles we've established to help us be good stewards of the interstate system in Iowa. You can also learn more about these principles by reading through the Guiding Principles Tech Memo or Map Journal Summary located on this site. Our studies on Interstate 80 are progressing, and we're ready to share some initial findings. Today, we're going to learn more about 4 technical studies. We'll first discuss overhead structures, or bridges, over Interstate 80. Second, we'll cover our evaluation of the possibility of investment in alternative routes. Third, we'll talk about how to accommodate trucks on the interstate. And finally, we'll look to the future and share our findings of automated vehicle use on Interstate 80. Each of these subjects will come with its own set of findings. Sometimes recommendations may differ slightly from one study to the next. At the conclusion of the overall study, we'll pull together the most appropriate recommendations for future transportation planning in Iowa. So let's start with bridges. Traffic on Interstate 80 continues to grow. We know that our future roadway designs need to accommodate this increase. As traffic grows, the current 4-lane interstate system will not be enough to move people and goods where they need to go in the future. This means we will need to widen the interstate. Currently, bridges crossing Interstate 80 do not have the space needed if an expansion were to happen. As a result, bridges will need to be replaced or removed when the interstate is widened. I know this may sound like a big task, and you're right, it is. We know that bridge replacement has its own challenges, which our study investigated. We looked at average daily traffic counts and travel distance for potential detours if the bridge was removed or under construction. Using these factors, we assigned all bridges over Interstate 80 a replacement score of 1 to 5. Bridges scoring a 1 were the department's highest priority due to their role in statewide or regional transportation needs. Those scoring 5 were considered lowest priority structures from the department's perspective and typically served more of a local transportation need. Bridges rated as a 1 or 2 require replacement as we make improvements to Interstate 80. These bridges serve broader transportation needs and are vital to the regional system. Bridges scoring a 3 appear to serve local connectivity and access needs and should be considered for replacement if local communities are willing to fund a portion of the replacement costs. Finally, bridges scoring 4 or 5 served more localized convenience and typically should not be replaced. As subsequent project development progresses, we'll work with local jurisdictions to determine appropriate next steps for these bridges. For more details about the overhead structures analysis, I encourage you to visit the Study and Map Journal Summary found online. The next technical study evaluated investment in routes parallel to Interstate 80 versus simply widening Interstate 80 to help determine the most effective ways to manage anticipated traffic growth of the interstate. While Interstate 80 is the state's primary east-west route, there are other options travelers may take, which would help relieve the amount of traffic on the interstate. The 2 most likely routes are US 30 and 34, as both are relatively close to Interstate 80. We considered several factors including cost, traffic demand, utilization, and economic and environmental impact. We analyzed multiple scenarios which range from doing nothing to expanding Interstate 80 to 6 lanes while also completing 4 lanes on either US 30 or on 34. Through this analysis, we learned that if nothing is done to Interstate 80, 60% of the route will be operating at a poor level of service. This means more delay. Conversely, if we leave the existing 2-lane portions of US 30 and US 34 as is, only 1 to 5% of those routes will be operating in poor level of service. We also learned that if improvements were made to either US 30 or 34, not enough traffic would actually divert from Interstate 80 to improve travel conditions on I-80. From an environmental standpoint, US 30 and 34 improvements would likely have greater impacts than if Interstate 80 was expanded to 6 lanes. What we've learned is that regardless of future improvements to US 30 or 34, widening of Interstate 80 is needed to efficiently serve future travel across Iowa. You can review the full study on our Interstate 80 planning study site. Our next study looked at the possibility for special accommodations for freight trucks. We know that freight travel is necessary for the economic vitality of Iowa, the United States, and the world. With nearby freight rail corridors, 2 large navigable rivers, and 8 commercial airports, the shipment of goods and services across Iowa using Interstate 80 is essential to our economy. We need to consider trucks differently because they operate differently than cars. This difference becomes especially important as traffic volumes grow. Trucks are bigger, require more travel time, and have more significant crash consequences. To accommodate freight travel, we considered several options. First, we considered if other modes, such as putting freight trucks on rail cars, would be appropriate for Iowa. We determined it is not the right fit for Iowa. Second, we evaluated whether reducing the speed limit for trucks on the interstate or other 4-lane roadways was an option. This option would require legislation to implement and ongoing enforcement. Our results are inconclusive in showing a positive impact on safety and operations. Finally, we considered options for restricting trucks to defined truck lanes during certain times or providing truck-only lanes separated from regular traffic. Both options are viable. If we were to use an existing lane restricted for trucks only during certain time frames, we would not need to change the existing design of the interstate. However, if we add a truck-only lane, we would need to change the physical design of the roadway. This option offers operational benefits, but is cost prohibitive. This study concluded with a recommendation to expand rural portions of Interstate 80. Lane restrictions for trucks would continue to be a viable option in the future, and further evaluation of urban areas will need to be considered. The last study we're highlighting today is our automated vehicle study on Interstate 80. Automated vehicles are passenger cars and freight trucks that include automation technology, which allows the vehicle to control a portion of the driving task. We anticipate that automated vehicles will make up anywhere from 20 to 85% of all traffic by 2040 and 60 to 100% by 2060. In this study, we considered traffic capacity, safety, travel time, and the uncertainty of what the future may bring. In the future, it's believed that automated vehicles will substantially improve the flow of traffic and reduce crashes. The quicker they're adopted, the more quickly we can take advantage of the benefits. We've also found that these vehicles are really smart. They have the ability to operate efficiently even in heavy traffic because they're constantly communicating with other automated vehicles and their surroundings. Even though we'll likely see more vehicles on the road in the future, if we widen Interstate 80, the good news is that automated vehicles will help us experience similar travel times as we do today. As more of these vehicles hit the road, we expect 35% less vehicle crowding on the roadways because automated vehicles will be better able to adapt to the increased amount of traffic. Automated vehicles will help you get to your desired destination safer and with fewer delays. At the lowest end of the adoption rate spectrum, it is estimated that automated vehicles will help to decrease crash rates by 18% on Interstate 80. Even more exciting, with 85% adoption, there is a predicted 63% reduction in crashes. As automated vehicle technology matures, we are going to realize the true safety benefits of vehicles that don't crash, helping us toward our goal of 0 fatalities. This study provides recommendations for the Iowa DOT to consider as we prepare for the future. In the near term, we'll plan ahead to design appropriate infrastructure to accommodate increasing automated vehicle use. While the future is still uncertain, we do know that we need to continue to study and adapt our planning efforts as technology changes are made. For example, we'll need to understand differences in generational driving behaviors, car ownership trends, and the emergence of ride-sharing. You can learn more about the Interstate 80 automated vehicle study located on this site. We also have developed an informational video to help you understand the basics of automated vehicle technology and its current and future use in Iowa. You can find that video on this site as well. Wow, we've certainly covered a lot. I'm sure you have questions or maybe want to share something with us about one of these studies. That's great. We want to hear from you. To learn more about the Interstate 80 Planning Study, review the materials provided on this site. You can ask questions or submit a comment on our comment form found on the site. We look forward to hearing from you and learning more about how potential changes along Interstate 80 will impact your life. In our next meeting, we'll report back on additional technical studies, ask for your input, and present recommendations made at the conclusion of the Interstate 80 Planning Study. Thanks for joining me today. See you next time.